There's a strange beauty in solitude. In a world that worships connection, some souls seek silence. They drift away from noise, not because they hate people, but because they crave peace. They are not lonely, they are aligned. They don't disappear out of sadness, they vanish into stillness. To them, silence is not empty, it's full. Full of thoughts, full of clarity, full of truth. Society calls them distant. Friends say they're cold, but they're neither. They are just tuned to a frequency too quiet for most to hear. Because when you spend time alone, you meet yourself again and again. And that meeting, that deep conversation with your own soul, can be more healing than 1,000 words. Today, let's explore the psychology of people who always want to be alone, and the quiet strength behind their solitude. For most people, silence feels like a void. For them, it feels like home. When others crave noise to feel alive, they seek stillness to breathe again. The world drains them, every conversation, every obligation, every unspoken expectation that demands they perform. So they retreat, not to escape life, but to return to it more whole. In solitude, their thoughts unfold like soft petals. They listen, not to people, but to presence. They remember who they are beneath the masks they wear for the world. Because alone, there's no pretending. No smiling when they don't want to. No adjusting themselves to fit into spaces that don't understand them. Psychologists call it introversion. But to them, it's more than a trait, it's survival. Their energy doesn't grow in the crowd. It grows in the quiet corners of their own being. And while the world thinks they're hiding, they're actually healing. Because sometimes, solitude isn't an escape. It's a sacred return. People who always want to be alone aren't cold. They're sensitive. Not in the fragile sense, but in the way that they absorb life like a sponge. Every emotion, every tone, every shift in energy. They feel it all. The world doesn't move past them. It moves through them. That's why crowds exhaust them. Why conversations linger long after they're over. Why they replay words in their minds. Not to overthink, but to understand. They notice the tremble in a voice, the sadness behind a smile, the truth behind silence. And when you feel the world that deeply, solitude becomes their filter. They don't isolate because they dislike people. They isolate because they carry them too much. And sometimes, the kindest thing they can do for themselves is to step back and feel nothing for a while. For most, silence is uncomfortable, a space they rush to fill with sound. But for those who always want to be alone, silence is sacred. It's in that silence they see things clearly, not the surface-level chatter of life, but the undercurrent beneath it. They hear their own thoughts without interruption, their own truth without distortion. Alone, they untangle the knots that noise creates. They trace their fears back to their origins. They ask themselves the questions others avoid. Who am I when no one is watching? What do I really want? What truly matters? Solitude becomes their mirror. And in that reflection, they confront both light and shadow, the beauty and the brokenness, the peace and the pain. It's not always comfortable, but they prefer the discomfort of truth to the comfort of distraction, because clarity rarely comes from noise. It comes from stillness, and they have learned to dwell in that rare and precious quiet where the world finally makes sense. To most people, silence is awkward, something to escape. To them, it's sacred, something to honor. They've learned that words can deceive, that people say, "I'm fine," when they're breaking, and "I love you," when they mean, "Don't leave me." So, they stopped chasing meaning through noise, and started finding it in silence. Silence never lies. It doesn't promise what it can't keep. It doesn't pretend to understand. It just is raw, honest, and unfiltered. That's why they're quiet in rooms filled with talk. Why they listen more than they speak. Why they observe before they react. They know that stillness reveals more than speech ever could. In silence, people's truths unfold. Who they are when they have nothing left to prove. So they trust silence, not because they fear connection, but because they've seen how loud emptiness can be. And they would rather dwell in quiet truth than dance with noisy lies. People who always want to be alone often seem calm, untouched by chaos, anchored while the world spins. But beneath that peace lies a quiet ache, a sadness too soft to name. It's not loneliness. It's the weight of seeing life too clearly. They notice how everything fades, how laughter echoes and then dissolves, how people promise forever but mean for now. So they pull away, not out of bitterness, but out of understanding. Because when you see the world for what it truly is, beautiful and fleeting, warm and unpredictable, you learn to love from a distance. Their solitude becomes a kind of mourning and a kind of meditation, a place where they grieve what the world refuses to see and find peace in what others run from. They are not sad because they're alone. They are alone because they've made peace with sadness. And that peace, though misunderstood, is their quiet form of freedom. So maybe those who always want to be alone aren't running from the world. Maybe they're walking back to themselves. They've simply learned that solitude isn't a punishment, it's a privilege. It's where masks fall, where truth breathes, where the soul finally speaks without interruption. They don't hate people, they just love peace more. They don't crave attention, they crave authenticity. And while the world calls them distant, they are quietly close to life, to meaning, to their own heartbeat. So if you see someone who spends more time in silence than in company, don't call them lonely, call them awake. Because sometimes the loudest souls speak in whispers. And sometimes the ones who walk alone walk the farthest.